am having, Mac.
With the recent announcement of the Knuckles TV show now in production, I got to thinking what would be some of the coolest things to expect to see in the Sonic Movie 3, or things you just might see in general. So today I have with me a couple things that I would love to see happen in the Sonic Movie 3. If you like content like this and want to see more of it in the future, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on the video, and make sure you turn on the post notifications bell, that way you never miss a video from me. You do not want to miss what I have to say. That said, one of the things I really would love to see happen in this movie, and this is going to sound horrible saying it, but just hear me out. I'd love to see Maria die. Now, I know a lot of people thought that this wasn't going to happen in the movie because, you know, they want to be PG and friendly and all that stuff, but this kind of thing happened in Sonic X, and Sonic X was some of the most PG stuff Sonic has ever released, ever. So I feel like if it can happen here, it can happen in the Sonic movies without any problem. And not to mention, Professor Gerald Robotnik was in some of the post-credit scene, you know, concept art for Sonic Movie 2, so, I mean, they kind of already have an idea of what's going to happen here, and I think they might do somewhat of a parallel to the actual Sonic Adventure 2 in accordance to Shadow the Hedgehog's backstory. Now, this next point's going to probably sound a bit weird because after what I had just previously said, but I actually don't want this movie to be like a direct retelling of the events of Sonic Adventure 2, because if I was going to play the game, I just play the game. I want the movie to be its own unique experience, and maybe even have like a slight spin on what happened in Adventure 2, where it's not the exact same story, but there are some elements in it that feel like, hey, this is a direct reference from Sonic Adventure 2, but it feels so unique where it's like, even though it's a reference, it still feels fresh, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, I would say that Sonic X is more of a retelling of the events of the Sonic Adventure games rather than actually being kind of new experiences on their own. I feel like there really isn't enough there that they add to make it feel that separate from what the games previously did. Now, granted, it is a different experience, but I feel like if you watch Sonic X, you kind of understand what happened in the games pretty well, and same goes vice versa. But I want this experience with the Sonic Movie 3 to be like, even though you've played the games, the movie is in itself like a really unique and separate experience that may have some elements transfer over, but it's still very distinct enough where you don't know what's going to happen in one, even if you have played the games or seen the movie. Like, I think there definitely should be a Sonic the Hedgehog versus Shadow fight, but imagine this, since Sonic Adventure 2 didn't do this, but, I mean, we all kind of want to see it, what if there was a fight between Super Sonic and Super Shadow? That would be really interesting, and they have done that in Sonic X before, but I think that's like one of the few times where we ever see that happen in the series. I think every other time has been like a fan fiction or something along those lines. Having it happen here in Sonic Movie 3 would be really cool to see. Now imagine this, you have Super Sonic versus Super Shadow, and in the background you have Live and Learn playing by Crush 40. You see, the soundtrack to me is really important because, in my opinion, Sonic the Hedgehog has some of the best music I've ever seen in any video game. And granted, I haven't played every single video game ever made, but still, I think we can all agree that one of the things that Sonic the Hedgehog is best at is its music. So, with that in mind, the movie should definitely be diving more into the soundtrack of this series because it doesn't seem to miss, ever. So why aren't we using it more? So the Sonic Movie 3 could easily capitalize on doing so by using some of the best songs from the best Sonic game, or one of the best Sonic games depending on who you're asking. Oh, and this goes without saying, but I'm going to need Sonic to wear the soap shoes in this movie. I love the shoes he wears in the movies as it is, but it's soap shoes time. It's time to really put those things on, brother. We need to see more of them in the future, so yeah, no, we're going to need them. Before I get into more of the plot-oriented stuff, I want to talk about some of the characters that I'd like to see in this movie appear as well. Like, I mean, I know everyone's thinking that characters like Rouge the Bat, Amy Rose, Omega, and even there was like a leak that said Big the Cat was going to be in it. Yeah, I don't think any of this is a bad idea per se, but I think that we should really begin to isolate which characters are going to be the most essential to have in this movie between characters that we think should just be background characters or maybe like one-liners or something. Like, for me, in my opinion, I believe that all of Team Dark should be in this movie. I'm talking Shadow, Rouge, and Omega, and we already know Shadow's going to be there, so that's a given. I also believe that Amy Rose should be there, and to be honest, that's kind of where my line for essentials is drawn. You already have Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and I think these four would really capitalize on who should really be in this movie. The reason I say that is because there's already a lot that needs to take place in this movie, and we need to factor in Shadow the Hedgehog's backstory because that's going to be essential for him as a character, and I feel like what they're going to do in the movie is probably give it to us in pieces. It's not going to be like this one long-form backstory that takes like 10 minutes. Instead, we're going to get like a snippet of Shadow's backstory at every now and then occasion, and we're going to be able to piece it together by the end and really see the full story of what really happened to him. I don't really see any humans getting majorly involved, like no more wedding subplots or anything like that taking place. I think what they're going to do instead is probably have the gun commander, who's a big Olive Garden fan, he'll probably be involved heavily in the movie because I think his relation to Shadow the Hedgehog is going to be really key here. So I think that's really going to be the primary human aspect of it. I have no idea how Tom and Maddie are going to be involved, probably because, the world's going to think that Sonic is causing all of this destruction and havoc when it's actually Shadow, and Tom is the one that's going to have to protect Sonic, and he's the only one that believes him that he didn't do anything wrong, and maybe Maddie does too. But I think that's how they're going to use Tom and Maddie, and I think it's really essential to note all this stuff because the human characters are not going anywhere in this movie. There's no reason they shouldn't be involved in this in any capacity. So with that in mind, I definitely don't believe we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of Sonic characters showing up left and right, if not more than one-liners or name drops or anything along those lines. I don't think that characters like Big will be taking a big role or anything like a previous leak said, or any other character aside from Amy, Shadow, Rouge, and Omega. I think Omega would work perfectly in this movie because you can have them basically in the room when Shadow is awakened, where he's supposed to be this guardian robot that's supposed to protect the ultimate life form or something along those lines. I think that's a perfect setup for him, but I don't even know how you'd introduce characters like Rouge or Amy, but I have 100% confidence that these two will be there. Probably Amy more so than Rouge, just because I think Rouge is now just starting to get more so in the area of being acceptable for Sega to showcase more often. I think one of the difficulties with her before was she's, do I have to say it? I don't really think I have to say it. I'm trying to keep this channel PG over here, but yeah, she's not exactly the most, childlike figure to have on a Sonic the Hedgehog TV show or movie. So I'm actually genuinely surprised that she was able to be featured so often in shows like Sonic X, even in the 4Kids dub. I figured they'd find a way to erase her or something, but yeah, no, she's there. Even still, I think Amy is definitely more likely than Rouge, just because I think Amy would be a much easier character to integrate into the storyline than Rouge would be. And I think that's just because Amy's the one that kind of helped change Shadow, and the same thing could happen here in the movie. And also you can give an interesting subplot between Sonic and Amy, where I actually think this is going to happen. I don't think Amy's going to have a big crush on Sonic. I think Sonic's going to have a big crush on Amy because of the way Sonic's character is developed. I feel like his character is more inclined to be in love with someone than, not be interested in that at all, if that makes sense. I think it's very important to make the distinction that movie Sonic and game Sonic are very different versions of Sonic. Like movie Sonic, for example, and this really goes into the reason why I think he'll have a big crush on Amy, is because he has this desire for relationships and connection. Whereas game Sonic, I think he's just so sure of himself and so confident that he doesn't really showcase that he wants friends or desires them, but he thinks they're very important. But he's not really hoping for that kind of connection. He just makes it happen without really trying. Whereas movie Sonic, even from the first movie, he really wants that with Tom. And even the second movie, he wants to, develop a close relationship with him and Knuckles and try to show him the way. But I feel like game Sonic is different because I think from the very beginning with game Sonic, it's just been these connections happened due to circumstances, not because he was forcing anything. It was more so him going out of his way to save someone or help someone or just being the hedgehog that he was, and that just gravitated people towards him. Whereas movie Sonic, I think he kind of goes out of his way sometimes to make those interactions. And not saying one is better than the other, but I think that's the reason why movie Sonic will be so into this idea of being in a relationship with Amy. You can feel free to disagree with me in the comment section down below, but I really hope this breakdown really helped you understand where I'm coming from, at least in this aspect of what I think will happen in the Sonic movie 3. The last thing that I would really love to see from this movie is, I think it'd be great to kind of wrap up this trilogy and start a new one. Like, for example, I love what they're doing with Spider-Man in the, MCU universe, where, they finished the Homecoming trilogy, and they're going to start a whole new trilogy with Spider-Man taking place where things are starting fresh with this new version of Spider-Man. I guess not really a new version of Spider-Man, but you know what I'm trying to say. And I think that the Sonic movie 3 should kind of follow suit and do a similar kind of thing, where it's Sonic is finally saying goodbye to Tom on his own terms. In the first movie, he was saying goodbye to Tom because he felt like that was something he had to do. Whereas this time, it's he's saying goodbye to Tom because it's this is something that I feel like I want to do or should do because I'm growing up, I'm becoming the hero that I feel like I need to be, and I'm becoming more confident in myself and my friends. And thank you so much for helping me, but it's time to say goodbye. And I think that'd be a really great end to this kind of trilogy here. And it could start the next one where it's Sonic is in his own world doing his own thing. And that's when we really get the chance to meet all the other Sonic characters we really wanted to see in this universe. That's the way I see it. I don't think that it'd be a bad idea to keep the humans going forward, but I think it'd also be a great send-off because this is Sonic growing up. It's him doing his thing now. But yeah, that's pretty much what I would really love to see happen in Sonic Movie 3. That's what I would say needs to happen in Sonic Movie 3. But as always, let me know in the comment section down below what you would love to see in Sonic Movie 3. I know we're kind of a long way from its release, but I just can't contain my excitement for this thing. That said, thank you all again so much for watching. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?